What is gravity, and can we defeat it? Gravity is a compression of a radiant field composed of counter-rotating vortices and a scalar field. At least that's the simple version. The more complicated way of saying it is that a transverse magnetic field is pulse into a longitudinal field, and the combined fields in resonance form a radiant field of positive energy on the outside and a negative field of radiant energy compressed in the Casimir effect to the Planck scale, where the field compression forces it to explode into a larger field of energy that encompasses the entire Earth, where the temperature differential of the radiant fields form plasma in a clear form. The upper layer of the atmosphere is mostly low-level static electricity, where under the planet's surface is a magnetic field. Both the transverse and longitudinal fields are oscillating in resonance with one another on both the world scale and the Planck scale simultaneously. Even that was too simple of an explanation. So let's take each part and break it down even further with examples known and unknown fields in a Tesla coil. The transverse field is also known as magnetic field of the #1 coil. The longitudinal field is the transformation of the pulsed magnetic field into a static field. This is achieved by increasing the frequency of the #2 coil and reduce the amperage of the transverse field while the voltage spikes. But the energy the Tesla coil produces is not transverse or longitudinal, it is radiant. The compression and decompression of the two fields in resonance with one another make the outside field of the Tesla coil positive radiant energy and the inside negative energy. While the outside produces a positive field, it also creates scalar fields. A scalar field is based on temperature and frequency difference at distance. Let me clarify. As the frequency gets further away, it reduces the temperature in that field while raising the frequency slightly. We see this effect on the Earth every day. While standing on a flat plane, the temperature on a sunny day is hot. But when we hike the mountain, the temperature is cold, and the frequency has risen from the plane to the mountaintop. This is scalar energy in a compressed field of radiant energy. The Earth mimics the Tesla coil and the fields it produces. The inner radiant field or negative radiant energy is compressed in the Casimir effect, forcing the energy to reduce to the Planck scale. It responds by exploding the small field into a larger field that encompasses the whole Earth. The Tesla coil makes the same field when you place a rod down the center and limit the frequency based on the harmonic scaling of that frequency. Because the Tesla coil is a lower form of energy input, you would have to move the negative radiant energy out of the Tesla coil to see the field expansion. Where the outside field goes 3 feet at 20 volts, the inside negative radiant field, when compressed, will go 4 feet. The radiant fields create vortexes in the negative radiant field that allows the energy to flow around the outside of our Earth. Because the energy forms to build the resonance fields were static and magnetic, we see a low level of static energy that accumulates in the upper atmosphere, while the magnetic field is below the surface level of the Earth. The friction of the negative radiant energy and the low-level static field cause the layers to compress upon each other, forming a clear plasma layer and holding in our atmosphere. The magnetic field contains the heat of the planet. To test this, we take a rotating disk and place static electricity on it. Normally, the static would fly off in centrifugal force, but when we add a field outside of it of negative radiant energy in the form of a ring, it will hold in the static field. The reverse is also true. When the negative radiant field is applied to the disk, it will push out. When the static field is applied to the outer ring, the negative radiant energy will force the static field to push out at the scale of the input energy. This test concludes that the negative radiant energy can both hold in or push out another field. We see this play out in the Van Allen belt, where radiation is held in by the negative radiant energy being produced by the Earth. The transverse and longitudinal fields are creating the radiant energy because of the resonance between them. The resonance frequency is lower than the normal frequency of a coil. Most new Tesla coil users see this as an abnormality, when it is how two frequencies in resonance work. Resonance is where quantum entanglement takes place. In any system like the Earth and the Sun, the resonance frequency of the Earth is quantumly entangled to a resonance frequency of the Sun. They are both entangled in a scalar field with one another. Resonance works on the micro and macro scale and the Earth and Planck scale. It is the only thing in this world that binds everything together. It is also why it is the fundamental link to gravity as an effect. Resonance in a bridge can make it sway violently until it destroys itself. We do not allow horses on some smaller bridges because the frequency of their hooves cause the bridge to resonate and destroy itself. The resonance is working throughout every scale. It can cause constructive interference, or in the bridge's case, deconstructive interference. This would mean that antigravity must work on a form of deconstructive interference of the natural resonance frequency of any item in a gravitational field. This is also why gravity is not a cause, but an effect. The true cause of gravity is the relationship between the resonance of the transverse and longitudinal fields. The radiant energy is harder to see, but it shows up all over the Earth. The low-level static in the atmosphere can be collected as potential energy, or as Tesla called it, radiant energy. We have created corona motors to take advantage of this phenomena. Tesla used the Wardenclyffe Tower to draw in that same energy. The static also shows up when things on the Earth's surface have friction to one another. A static field is formed and discharged as a spark. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, so the energy must already be there, and the friction was the catalyst for the accumulation of the energy. We are also in a positively charged environment of a vacuum. The positive is very low, so a magnet thrown off a building only slows when it is compressed and flips the energy in that locality into interference with that magnet. You could call it a change in the atmosphere's viscosity in that locality. We also see the magnetic field show up in the radiant energy. The surface of the Earth is warm and holds better temperature just under the surface layer. This is commonly mistaken for the sun's energy pushing through the plasma layer of the Earth. The sun's energy is pushing upon the field of the Earth, cursing the negative radiant energy field to retain heat as it flows back into the core of the Earth, where it amplifies the magnetic field in the center of the Earth. I make the distinction because radiant energy is working by drawing in heat to the cold negative radiant energy, making it stronger, or in some cases, flipping the field to a positive state. Without this, the energy would not flow in the Earth. We also know Tesla used the magnetic field of the Earth at the Wardenclyffe Tower to pull in energy from the ground. He also knew it as radiant energy. This test has also been proven by turning on a Tesla coil and having a small rod intruding in the center of it, flipping the field and making the Tesla coil a pump to the ground. Plasma will shoot out of the ground wire to the Tesla coil. This is the opposite of normal operation. The final connection that Wardenclyffe made was the combination of the positive and negative radiant energy fields, giving us usable voltage and amperage in a single coil. The Earth is made up of radiant energy, both positive and negative, that are compressed into layers of fields in resonance that build out in scalar fields. They are the cause, and gravity is the effect. To create anti-gravity, you would have to understand these fields and how they interact with one another in order to make it smaller in your craft. The energy of the Earth is too high to push against or overpower, but separating yourself from it with your own gravity would allow the energy level to be much lower. The resonance is the distortion necessary to break the grip of gravity from the craft. By using the Biefeld-Brown effect, you can control the direction of the craft with directed energy or directed pulse. It would move in a scalar field, where the frequency of the Earth is the destination, because it has its own gravity and is no longer coupled to the Earth. It has no inertia. It also means Einstein's theory of special relativity is also true in this case, with time dilation on a smaller scale than the Earth produces.
I wanted to thank everybody for watching today. If you like this kind of content, we do a live show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on YouTube, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the main channel. The link will be in the description. Please join us, get in the chat, and have some fun. With all that said, hit the music.
The old man will. The old man will. The old man will. The old man builds.
The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality restricted from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to instead. The old man builds.